You know the phrase that pays. Well, hello from somewhere. Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Global Video Scope and your three expert hosts with what? Tell them. Smiling angelic countenances.
Tell them what? Tell them your last four of your social.
Lantern jaws and matinee idol good looks. That's right. Your three expert cartoonists are back for another year of pencil to pencil. I hope you're as excited as I am. Guys, let's do some introductions. I am your first co-host. My name is Jamar Nicholas, your humble, friendly neighborhood grandpooba. I wear many hats besides this one. I am on the board of the National Cartoon Society. And also, submissions are open for Reuben Divisional Awards. You do not have to be a member to submit work. The window is open until January 23rd. Go to nationalcartoonist.com and put your stuff in there. Why don't you? On top of all those other things, I'm also the Philadelphia chapter chair. I also have a graphic novel series at Scholastic. Leon the Extraordinary is the name of the series. My newest book coming out this year, you guys. We crossed the threshold. Leon and the Big, Big Problem will be in stores November 2026. Tell them, Steve Conley, what do they have to do?
If I were them, I would cop it, and then I would ask them, why don't you cop it?
Why don't you cop it? Guys, I would be remiss. I would be in remission if I did not introduce my cohort, co-defendant, and co-conspirator, and co-conquistador. He is, now in wrestling, they like to count how many days you have held the title. This might be the 236th day you've held the World Heavyweight Championship in webcomic. That's fair, right?
That's fair.
Guys, please welcome my good buddy, Stone Cold Steve. Steve Conley. What's up, Steve Conley?
Gentlemen, I missed you. I missed your faces. Happy New Year. My name is Steve Conley. I write and draw your 24th favorite webcomic, The Middle Age. You can check it out on my website, steveconley.com. It's over on the Webtoons at Tapas. A little slow on the go comics. We're having some little technical issues there, but hopefully the episodes will be updated there in short order. But you also check it out on fables.io and Global Comics. It's on Prime Reading. You don't got to pay a penny.
Worldwide. I love it.
And I would be remiss. I would certainly be remiss if I didn't introduce the Tower of Power, the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, the maestro of mark making, the majestic, the marvelous Mr. Mike Manley.
Hello,
everyone.
Does that doll slam evil?
He slams debt. He helps me slam debt.
I love it.
Hello, everyone. What it is his 97th anniversary, I think, this year.
Wow.
Something like that, yeah. Of the Phantom, yeah. Today is Flash Gordon's 92nd birthday.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Mike, I just saw this kind of a couple of days ago. A couple of things just went into public domain. Is that
a lot? Yeah.
Can you want to talk about a little bit of those things?
Actually, you can. There's been several articles on it. I think the first version of Pluto, Minnie Mouse.
Wow.
There's a lot of. Was it Betty Boop? In fact,
Betty Boop is public domain. Wow.
Betty Boop. Yeah. In fact, it's funny because I was talking to Tony DePaul, the writer of the Phantom, and we've talked about this several times. It's 5 years or 7 years, and the Phantom is public domain. And right after that, Batman, Superman, Wonder, all within 10 years, all would be in public domain. Now, Popeye went last year, a year before, and I told him, "Oh yeah, there's all these like slasher horror movie things of Popeye," and he's like, "What?" Yeah, and so I went and did a little screen capture and sent him, and I was saying, that's the first thing everyone does, it seems, when they do they take any beloved childhood character is they make them a killer, they make it horror, or they make it porn. It's like one of the, or all of the above, right? Right. So you know how many porn, killer, horror versions of Betty Boop will there be now, right? Because there's three about Popeye, like the killing sailor, right? There's 3 horror things, right? So it's like you've been waiting to take your turn with the Thimble Theater, and the first thing you do is, you know, give Popeye a hook, right, or an axe, and you know, the first thing you knew, what was it? The famous air pirates of the Mickey Mouse characters in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right. They who famously got sued by Disney because they, you know, infringed on the trademark. And that's the other thing that people forget is there's copyright and there's trademark. Mm-hmm. So they still own the trademark on Mickey Mouse. They may lose the copyright, but they own the trademark. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the John Carter, Mars, Tarzan, a lot of that stuff is public domain, but they still own the trademark. So, you know, it just seems to me it's sort of weird. People on one hand get very excited about, like, oh, I get to play with the Phantom, but now he's going to be a killer. Well, you know, he's going to be a zombie.
But these are the same cats that probably aren't doing any original work on their own. Just saying.
Yeah. But it's just funny because to me, it's like if you thought of any character and then you thought of the most cheesy cliche thing you could do, that's exactly the first thing that people do. Pooh Bear is now a killer. And the most innocent characters are now, you know, the Punisher, you know.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, some, you know, cartoonists can take advantage of it. Fabrice Sapolsky was saying, work Tintin into a story. I like, but couldn't call it Tintin or Tauntaun, but
Tauntaun.
Was it The Big Lie?
Yeah, I think that's what he called it. Yeah.
You know, so I think it's pretty cool. I think there's, you know, I've been thinking about ways of maybe using some of those public domain characters, but it is interesting. I don't know if Betty Boop has the name recognition of a Popeye or a Tauntaun.
Actually, you know, she does, because there's so much merchandising with Betty Boop as that image. King Features has done very well. I mean, there hasn't been a new Betty Boop cartoon, yet she's still out there on T-shirts and mugs. And
that's interesting. So people can do spin-offs of the original icon of her, but not later incarnations. That's going to be really weird to protect the trademark.
The first one is her with like the dog nose, right, and then I think then like each year, like with the Phantom or Popeye, you could only do what was in the first year's strip. Then the next, like Batman will come up, but not the Joker and not Robin. Right. And then each year, more and more and more and more of that stuff becomes public domain. So I imagine the one that will probably do the best would be Batman. Oh, they've already been turning every character into Batman for the last 30 years anyway, but
so now Mike, let me get this straight. So what you're saying is that, so say, and the chat will roast me because I don't know exactly off the top of my head when Batman was created. Sue me.
39, I think.
All right, so let's say now that Batman is public domain, but only the 1939 aesthetic, and then it kind of just marches up every year. It's still in public domain.
Right. Yeah.
So that's so how do you do the math on that? Like, how do you do the design math on that? Like, that's not the right Batman. You're getting sued now, but the 39 one.
Well, you go and you look at all the 1939 comics, right? And so anything that was in there in 1939 you can use. But if you said, okay, I'm going to do the 1939 Batman, but I'm also going to put in the 1941 Joker or whatever the Joker was introduced,
right.
then you're going to get your ass sued.
Right.
And a lot of these corporations, like Disney or Warner Brothers or people like that, sue people all the time. In fact, Disney is so big that they can just nuisance sue people into the dirt. So, and then you still have to wonder, like, okay, well, you got this bootleg Batman or this bootleg Winnie the Pooh, and now you're going to make it this murderous, or going to make this different bloody version. Who does that appeal to? Because if you got millions of people that love Pooh Bear, they're not going to suddenly go like, oh my God, I couldn't wait until he fucking killed Piglet,
And there's somebody who's another independent horror filmmaker who's written and crafted their original horror movie, who feels like completely under the shadow of this public domain Winnie the Pooh. Oh, these sellouts, the print wall of cinematic competitors.
I love it. Well, that's always. I mean, as we go ahead into the future, that's just going to get more and more interesting. So let's get our engine started, you guys. Welcome back to Pencil to Pencil. This is our first night back after the New Year's. I hope everyone had a at least healthy New Year's since we've seen you last. I know everybody's probably like, oh, that first Monday back after everybody's dragging ass, but I'm glad that you're back. And let me tell you what we're doing tonight. We are surviving 2026.
Can we just skip to 2027? Can we just get forward, Mr. Wizard?
Are we already past Gil Gerard? Was it that 1998 when he was?
Can we fall into a time warp and like it'll be 2027 and we'll wake up and be like Dorothy walking out into Oz?
I love Buck Rogers. That was my jam. So we capped our last episode in 2025 with kind of like a recap, wrapping up 2025, and I think that episode went really well. And this one is kind of like basically a bookend to what we did in 2025 of what can you look forward to in 2026 as a creative, as a career cartoonist, as somebody who's looking to somehow double dutch their way into the ropes of a professional creative.
You're looking for a tag.
Yeah, looking for
a tag. Where's the tag?
Yeah, so
your man left.
Yeah, he jumped off the apron. I'm screwed. So I mean, there's a million ways to kind of look at this, and talking about how we're going to format this show tonight. There's a part of it that I would want to ask our expert hosts what they're not even looking forward to, but like what are they doing this year so far, and then kind of maybe where that goes, and then maybe some of the pratfalls that we have to deal with that are kind of on the horizon as a creative. One thing that I have been seeing all over my timelines lately is kind of like businessy stuff. Like, hey, do you know writing off things on your taxes doesn't mean they're free? Get this app. It'll tell you what you're really going to do when you turn this stuff into the IRS. So the business part of all this,
because that
really,
changed.
Yeah,
it changed the formula, right?
Mm-hmm.
They changed what you can. How much you can write off. I think the meals and travel, and they changed the formula. So that's why I have an accountant, because I mean, really, because I'm incorporated. So it's too labyrinthian to try to figure out all on your own.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So maybe we could just start cold and throw out kind of maybe some hot news that's just come up. We were talking about this in the green room. Baker and Taylor, which was a major book distributor, especially to the libraries and bookstores, are they Chapter 11, Mike, or are they done? Like, what's going on with Baker and Taylor?
Well, there's a very interesting article on this over on the Comics Journal website that breaks it all down. And basically, Baker and Taylor was the largest supplier of books to the library system, regular your library and every kind of library in the United States. And they started in like 1828. And so the skinny of it is that they've been bought several times, and every time they were bought, it seemed to make things worse. And now they're gone, and with them being dissolved, there's going to be a big problem with people because all the libraries, they were the diamond of the library system, right? So the backbone of the comic business is the libraries, because that's where a lot of people get their, all the young kids, a lot of people get their graphic novels. That's a big chunk of people's sales is, how many times do they refresh getting a copy of Watchmen or Bone or, Amulet or whatever. And the libraries became our biggest backers in comics. So the fact that the biggest fish is going belly up ties into what we're always talking about on the podcast. Is now you're sitting here and you're drawing, you're writing, you're creating your comic. I bet you not even 2 in 10 knew who Baker and Taylor were, right? And not even realizing that like that's the giant that you're living on, right? The big giant,
the turtle back, we all live with.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not thinking like, oh, this company exists, and if it goes away, oh well, how do I, little Mike Manley with Action Planet, or Jamar Nicholas if you were self-publishing, or Steve with his how do I get my stuff? Diamond's gone, Baker and Taylor's gone. How do I get my stuff out to people? Are libraries all over the United States going to have to call me up on the phone or send me an email? How many people are going to do that for my small business?
Right.
That's ground shaking. It's like the turtle just suddenly, the turtle back caved in, and these are the kind of things that you face as a creative person, because there's this whole understructure that you're not even aware of when you start coming into the business, that maybe you become aware of. Or I still bet a lot of people don't even know about Baker and Taylor. A lot of creative people putting out their graphic novels and Kickstarters don't even know about it. And it's just like, now Diamond's gone away. What do you do with your inventory? What do you do with all those books you were printed that you thought you were going to be sending out to libraries?
When I fell into the new world of traditional book publishing, and we talked about this on some of our episodes when we're talking about the machinations of the different columns of this business. As a student of all this stuff, the first thing I started doing, even before that, was trying to read the trade magazines, right? Because they do exist. Like, where are people getting their information in this world? And the number one place for that is Publishers Weekly, which is a magazine that comes out weekly. And they have a couple of different online components, and there's also a couple of different email newsletters. And I was surprised by how many people had never even heard of it while they're in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, like if you don't know the name of the president of the publisher that your book is under, that's just weird to me. You know what I'm saying? So like the Baker Taylor thing just makes a lot of sense. But being in this water, you should kind of know who's filling the pool.
But I think the reason this sort of happens is that it's not sexy. Drawing or writing that's the creative part. That's the part everybody is passionate about. Reading about, how the sausage is made. People, a few people are interested in how the sausage is made. 99% of people are not interested in this. They don't want to know. They don't want to know. I don't want to know what that hair is. I don't know what that little spot over there is. I don't want to know that. And, it's when you get into the business and your business is comics or that's how you make your sausage. How do you get your sausage to market? And, there was a lot of things that were established in the last, with Baker and Taylor, 200 years, right? That we never had to think about because it just worked.
Right.
There were channels for you to do things as you went up each step. If you were interested, a lot of artists are not interested in that kind of stuff. They're interested in creating, and they just want to here, I'm going to make this. I'm going to give it to you. You take this. You figure out how do you get it to the market. But I think now we live in a time that if you ignore that or you're not aware of it, it's really to your detriment. Because what if you're a small publisher and in the last year, 2 or 3 of your major routes to get your book out go?
I've been following this kind of the same kind of thing has been happening in the music industry for a while. When you hear real vocal voices from the music industry push back on streaming, they're like, do you know how many runs that you have to get off of something to even see $1 off of it? It's ridiculous, less than a fraction of a cent, per play. And I'm starting to see a new push back to independent publishing, cutting out the publisher, cutting out the middleman, going back to your website, direct downloads to the artist. And I'm sure that's got to be a column that's going to come back in the comics. I don't know. It's going to seems like you're going to have to break the nose to reset it here.
Well, that's why a lot of musicians tour.
Yeah.
Because they don't make any money streaming. And you can have, there's a lot of stuff going on with Spotify now. But it's sort of the same way, right? You put out, if you're an independent artist, you put stuff up like Steve. Steve puts up stuff for free to then try to get people later, right? So you got to give people. It's like the sample in the supermarket, right? But the economics of just even the supermarket. What if the supermarket isn't there? Then how do you give people free samples? Right? Are you in the parking lot? You got your dirty pretzel down by the airport. Dirty pretzel down by the airport.
Shut up the dirty armpit pretzels.
That's right. Yeah, scrape off your aluminum flakes and car exhaust from the top of your pretzel by the airport. I mean, it behooves you as a creative, as a young creative or as an old creative, to really be aware of the environment that you are in, because it's going to affect you whether you're aware of it or not.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as a young old creative, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's if you want to do this yourself. I mean, I don't know. There used to be paths that you could take where you could go through an editorial system and have them distribute your comic books or your newspaper strips, and they would do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But even now, no matter what they are, no matter what the publishing mechanism is now, a lot of the PR, a lot of the networking, a lot of the promotion falls on your own shoulders. So if you're, and there's always been the fear that the conduit to get your material delivered could fall apart, whether it's a distributor or newsstands, or there's a there could be a timeline showing all the various tumults in distribution of cartoon material. But I think if you're nowadays, I think it's on you to know how your work gets out there and not put all your eggs in one basket. You can't even rely on a single social media site anymore. You might, I built up, we've talked about this before. I built up my huge Friendster audience and what's happened to it, or my huge MySpace audience, or Facebook, or X, whatever. I mean, you can build up this thing, but if you don't own the audience, if you don't, and by own the audience, I mean, if you don't own the delivery system, whether that's email or off your own website, you're kind of at their mercy. So you have to learn how to distribute your work. If one of the options is knowing how to distribute your own work and to do the crowdfunding and to do delivering it for free. I'm rambling, but that ties into my plan for this year. Is this is the 10th anniversary of my webcomic, The Middle Age. It has its 10th birthday in July. I'm going to wrap up this story.
10 years.
10 years.
That's wild. Happy birthday.
You got a lot of rings in the tree there, young man.
Happy birthday, Stone Cold.
It's a bonsai. It's not that big a thing, but but I'm really happy with it.
But you've carefully tended that bonsai.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. You just didn't like grow up like a weed and like, oh, there it is. Look. And
I feel like that's the path I have to continue to take, where it's like no one was ever going to publish my comic. You see what it looks like. I'm happy with it, and my audience really likes it. But people are like, "Is that European?" It doesn't fit.
Are you a European, Steve?
Yeah, it doesn't fit into the boxes that have already been made for my comic, and so.
But even the boxes that were made are not even the same boxes anymore.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Are they even box shaped? They're
right.
Kind of weird, polygon or something.
So when we talk about younger cartoonists or even older cartoonists, it's kind of on us to get our stuff out there. And the reason why I give it away for free is because just like the comics we read, none of us ever read. I mean, no, I take that back. All of us read Action Comics #1. It wasn't an original printing. We all read Amazing Fantasy 15, not an original printing, because they reprinted it again and again and again. And they kept giving us ways into the universe, into the story, and put it in cards that were in Wonder Bread and all this stuff. They found all these ways of getting their IP in front of us. And so it's kind of on us to get our IP in front of people. I don't think that's going to change, despite tariffs and AI and all that other stuff. I still think that's on us.
Steve, our good buddy, and let's say Happy New Year to the Maven, Ray Anthony Height, Studio Sky Tiger in the building. What up? Shout out Compton. Ray says social media isn't the barometer that people think it is either. There are so many successful creators with almost zero social media presence. That is very true. Right.
But how do you know about them if they have no social media presence?
Well, they may have found their own way. I mean, there's like Eric Amon and Ojoy Sex Toy has a dedicated audience. There's Ogloff. There's all these comics that most people doesn't really even, it may not be this thing. You don't need to be the Wizard top 10. You just need to have that dedicated audience and deliver. There was a quote. I know I probably talk about sumo a little too much because I'm so into it. But there was a great quote from Yokozuna Taiho, who said, "If you keep doing the things you're supposed to do as best you can, then everyone will support you." He was talking about sumo, but I just love that. If you keep doing the things you're supposed to do as best you can.
So what are those things that you're supposed to do in 2026? Maybe that's the thing.
Yeah, that's a great top 10 Rick D's.
What do you got to do to keep looking up?
Nice. That was a good call. That was oh man, Star Hustler.
Star Hustler.
Looking up. So I think
looking up.
Well, I come down to things where what I would try to focus on recently is believing that the best promotion is evergreen content. Make something that will have legs. It's easy to chase an easy trend. It's easy to do something political or something like that. I mean, and I have to vent that way too online sometimes. But I feel like if you spend some time crafting something which is hot right now, but cold in a week or cold in 6 months, then the time you spent making that thing ends up being wasted because its value evaporates. But if you work on something that can be evergreen, something which can be complete, and something that even if it doesn't click with your audience right now, it becomes a bonus that you add to the Kickstarter you do in 2 years.
So what you're saying is that slasher porn Betty Boop idea I have is going to have legs.
Maybe if it, I mean, again, anything that you do that's great, that, you know, but even if it's not, even if it's, the important thing, Mike, would be that you finish it. The idea that you have this finished thing. So even when you're doing your Citizen Kane in 2 years' time, and everyone who backs that Citizen Kane project, tell you what, I'm going to throw in this other thing I did when I was from 2 years ago. It's a piece of garbage, but you're going to laugh. You know, that sort of thing. I feel like even the stuff that you do that maybe that isn't your, you know, your great American novel, your great American graphic novel, it could still be something that you know, at least it's done. If it's not done, then you don't have anything. So finished stuff would be number one on the list for me. Number one this year is Steve Connolly finishes stuff.
This is Rick D's top 10 count.
Yeah, count.
But yeah,
asking it at number one.
I think that's the most important thing always.
Yeah, I agree with finishing things. I also think there's something to be said about this. It sounds so cliche. Don't give up. Can I say that? Don't give up. Like I just saw, you know, everybody loves a winner, right? That's kind of how our society has been cultured over the years. I just read some slushy piece about the Duffer Brothers, the Stranger Things guys, and it was almost like a TLDR piece of Facebook that was just like, bro, get to the end of this thing. But they just talked about how these twin struggling writers in LA had no money and took every gig they could. They got rejected by every studio. Stranger, whatever, the Kids on Bikes concept got kicked in the ass by every studio until somebody said yes. And that's a great story, right? Everybody loves a great.
It's very Hollywood.
It's very Hollywood, you know, like, I don't know, somebody was working at a cafe and they had 5 cents in their pocket and then got discovered by Scorsese. Whatever, all those things are fantastic stories. But I also know, and this is something we come up against when we're having these episodes, and somebody says, well, when do you know when it's time to give up, right? When do you know when it's time to just like flush this idea because it's no good? Or when do you stick to your guns? You know what I mean? Just to maybe put a little balance on this, maybe what do you guys think? Do you think there is maybe a professional spider sense when you know this is a dog and I should take it out back in, you know,
Christy Noam
and take care of it? Or, you know what, they just don't see my vision yet. Give me another 15 years and then we'll be a success.
Well, you know, I think, well, first of all, you're talking about having enough experience to have enough wherewithal to understand when this dog won't hunt, as they used to say in the old days, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think when you're 20, there's no way you can possibly have the experience you have when you're 50. Right? Because you crashed and burned and you've done many things. And on top of that, it's different for everybody because, you know, you could do this as a hobby and never make a goddamn dime off of it, but be creatively fulfilled beyond you could get everything out of it that you want. Right? Now, if you're trying to make your living solely as a creative, then that brings in a whole other level, because that means that you've got to make enough to cover your nut, right? And that's different, because we always get into these discussions, and I always say that it's different, because what my nut versus your nut is different, because, you know, maybe you've got, you know, this will tie into stuff that's coming up, but we just went through a thing with one of our best known creatives. He was in big trouble financially, right? not every creative is in that same spot. Are you married? You got kids? You got college debt? You got medical debt? I don't think there's any one answer for that other than if you show your work to a variety of professionals. And I'm not talking about idiots in Hollywood, because almost everybody in Hollywood is a fucking idiot. But if you show it to people that you respect and you know are respected by others, and they all give you the same thing, same feedback, they're on to something. If you show it to your mom, she loves you, she loves it. You show it to your friends, if they don't draw comics, yeah, that's cool. If you showed it to, 5 editors at DC, 5 independent people, 5 of your top favorite creators, and they all told you the same thing, it's probably true. It's probably true. They're probably onto something. If you showed to a bunch of randos, well, randos are going to give you rando, like, I don't like cowboys, so you can do the best thing with cowboys, but I don't like cowboys, so fuck it. I don't like it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great question about when to know to move on to another project. I think you should start with an exit strategy when you start any project. That's something I didn't do early on, and I wish I had. I know how to wrap it up. Know that, and give yourself, like when I started the Middle Age 10 years ago, I could have put a bow on it at episode 50, and that would have been it. I would have exited. It would have been a funny little story that starts with a character and a sword busting on each other for 50 pages, doesn't get any traction, no one cares, or I don't feel it, or I've lost the joy. Like I've started this thing and I'm all excited about it. To me, that's a bigger threat than anything, is that you're starting something that has a life ahead of it and you're not thrilled. The honeymoon's over.
It's work. It's a chore. Yeah.
But I had a plan for putting a bow on it and having it, again, finishing the thing, because that's, at least I started this project with the notion that I could have a ending, and this would be a 50-page thing that I would then tack on to whatever came next, if anything came next. So knowing what constitutes success for you at the start. If you're just going to do it for fun, if you've got your day job and this cartooning is something that you would like to turn into a career, people have different goals. Someone wants to have a top record, or someone wants to sell albums or fill stadiums, and other people are just happy playing the local pub. Your goals are going to be different, and playing that pub might give you rent money, and that's all you care about, and so you're successful. You're in front of an audience every Wednesday, and that makes you happy. Because since the goals are different, I feel like that often is the thing. So what denotes success for one person is very different than somebody else.
Right. Yeah. I think also it's different for you at different points of your career, right? Because self-publishing for me in the end of the late 90s, that was a different goal after I had already done Batman. Right. And so I had achieved, if I looked at my career from when I started in 84, by 94, I had gone straight up. I'd done Batman. That book sold, the first issue I drew sold 1.5 million, close to 2 million copies. Right. And then immediately, pew, the whole industry blew up. Right. And then the other thing is that, ironically for me at that point, I was on the top book, or a top book, and making good money, but I was not creatively fulfilled because it was not what I imagined Batman would be in the way that I thought it would be when I was coming up. So career-wise, a lot of other things were great, but it was not satisfying to me, right? And so I think you have to be honest with yourself, right? You have to be honest with yourself. And if you can be honest with yourself, that doesn't mean you're always going to be happy, right? But I was happiest self-publishing, although it made me no money directly, yet indirectly it gave me a whole other career, because through doing that it opened up channels and gates and communication that allowed me to go into animation. Right. So I tried to self-publish actually in the very beginning of my career, but I didn't have the money, and the business was not set up as easy as it was by the 90s to self-publish. And it's actually even easier to self-publish now because of the fucking internet. I can draw something to now and just go coink, and everybody in the world can see it with the click of one button. That was not possible for more than half of my career, right? So, it's different. It's different. If I could, as much as I enjoy doing my work, if I could just draw my own stuff and make 2/3 of what I make,
right,
I would be the happiest camper in the universe.
100%. But there's it's interesting. I was talking with some other, again, the gaming world I talk about sometimes, and hopefully this is not derailing it, Jamar. If I'm going off the rails,
is this when you're off the rails? I do the Buck Rogers.
But they were also talking about how do you get attention, because a lot of the digital distribution system networks and platforms for distributing game books are also suffering right now. And with AI slop coming into it and all these other things, where you're getting competition from people who are just sort of just churning out. It's not even a labor of love. They've taken the labor out of it and a lot of the love out of it. And I feel like that's the problem we're all going to have. We're all going to keep trying to find this next platform. Social media was a thing that people could use for a while, and it feels like it's not doing that anymore. A lot of people coming over to YouTube, they think that's a thing. They think crowdfunding will be a thing. And there is a situation where there can be so many more people rushing the same platform that the attention is hard to get. Like we talked about some Kickstarters and some crowdfunding campaigns which didn't succeed when you think on paper this is going to be a perfect project. This will absolutely fund. It's going to be great, or it's going to, I don't know, maybe be 6 figures, at least 5, and then they fall short because there just isn't because the attention just spread so far and so wide. I don't know. I still think building your own audience and but again, getting back to the question about when do you know to give up, if that's putting it too bluntly. I think if you don't know when to, then I don't think you've got a very good plan.
Yeah. And don't forget, guys, the people that we admire, that we look up to, probably failed more than they succeeded. And I always say, you look at somebody like Kirby, who is a friggin' giant. Comics would not be what they were if not for him. And what he invented, romance comics and Team Kid comics and all the stuff that we're still, the structures that we're still using today, he failed.
Yeah.
He failed. Right? He failed multiple times in his career, which is why he ended up back at DC and why he ended up at Marvel. Right? And so failure is part of it, right? You can fail and learn from I think it's really learning from your failure to go to the next thing. Now, maybe you're the kind of personality, as we always talk about personality, maybe you're the kind of personality you get kicked in the teeth once and you go like, oh, that's it for me, man. They fucking kicked my teeth in. I don't fucking need this. This is bullshit. I'm done, right? But you look at the people who are very successful. Most of them failed, especially the further back you go, right? That's why I'm always big on history and the history of this business. because this was a rough business, distribution. We're going through the modern version now of what people went through in the 50s, the 40s, when the mob used to control distribution. It's all about, like, I have my idea. I got this guy who wears purple underwear. How do I get this guy in front of people who want to look at it? Right? And we keep going through these wave after wave. What we're really seeing is, we're seeing, in many regards, the final death knell of the 20th century, and all the structures that were originally set up in the 20th century that allowed creative people to create things and have a mechanism to get them to an audience. And all of those are being upset. And what the new things will be, just like the whole Warner Brothers thing, right? Whole Warner Brothers Netflix things. That affects a lot of people I know who work and live in Hollywood, who work in animation. Somebody who's 15 now and goes, I want to do Samurai Jack, or I want to do, K-pop Demon Hunters, right? What's going on with all these mergers and all this stuff is a thing that spins out how things are going to get made. Do they need people to get made? So, yeah. So one of the things I learned from self-publishing was that people don't like anthologies, which is something that always existed through my entire formative years, was buying comics that were anthologies, like all the Warren magazines, Heavy Metal, Marvel and DC put out tons of anthologies. But it turns out that once the direct market started coming in, people don't really like anthologies. They don't like them in the way, because I think one of the reasons why anthologies existed and worked is because there was a lot of material that they could repackage. And when you were dealing with the average Joe who's going into the supermarket or the party store to buy something, and they see on the rack, here's something with a tank, and here's a monster and a hot chick or a funny ghost, that was, the average person could find something until you could find an anthology. And a lot of the publishers collected their old stuff, repurposed it, right? Archie did that, all the Harvey comics. That whole market does not exist now. It does not exist. And you don't get that kind of buyer, and because you don't have that kind of market, you don't have that kind of buyer. Everything is a real specialty thing now. And that's something that's very, very different in the career. I guess Webtoons collectively is an anthology, if you think about it, because it's this big smorgasbord of every kind of story that you want. But I think that makes people even pickier.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve.
Well, was there a moment with either of you thought of a project that you're working on something, you're going, let me put this on the shelf for now?
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. I have a file cabinet full of stuff that I made like 25 years ago that's still sitting in the file cabinet.
You did your version of Commandi, right? I always tell people that. Kirby came up with Commandi in the 50s, along with all these other stuff that were just sitting in a drawer, right? And then he didn't do anything with it till the 70s, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have probably 20 projects. I have one with Jamar. He and I we would just sit down and bullshit and brainstorm and come up with an idea. So I have a lot of ideas. I would love to do the Skull Kids, but I seriously doubt whether there's enough of a market for something that is that eclectic, because it's not a kids thing. And I'm not even quite sure if I did it, I would want it to be I may want it to be silent and not have any kind of dialogue. You just sort of visually follow that story. And I don't know it's easy to get people to like something because it's free. That's cool. Make more. Oh, okay. Will you pay $5 for it? I got a stomach ache. You know, yeah. But if you make it for free, I'm there. I'm there every time you put it. I'll like it. Oh, you want $1? Yeah. Well, that goes to my OnlyFans account.
Hey, you got to stretch those bills.
You know, so yeah, you know, I do think about it. So it's like I have a lot of things like that kind of stuff, and the wind downs that I do. That to me, that's the real me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real me, and it's the most creative, rewarding. But I have to sort of do that. That's my model railroad, right? You know, the strips are how I pay for StreamYard, pay for my electricity. You know, and not that I don't enjoy doing it, but it's also a job, and it has certain requirements. Some days you can satisfy both itches. Some days you can't. Some days you got to do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that ties back into your personality. Do you have the personality that you can compartmentalize? Some people don't. It's like, no, I got to do this thing this certain way. And if I can't do it this certain way, fuck it, I ain't going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think all of this is coming at us all the time. 2025 was a really mixed year. And I think for the next 5, 6, 7 years until this whole AI thing and whatever the landscape of publishing is going to be and really settles down, it's going to be really choppy. It's going to be very choppy. Like, because every couple months there's like another major thing, like Diamond going away, or now this thing with Baker and Taylor. Who knows what's going to come this year? You know, so
that's interesting.
Let's talk a little bit about before we run out of time about creators using the kind of like available platforms and them not working. So like maybe talk about Kickstarters when they don't work, or
Kickstarters go bad,
or that Zoop that we were talking about a little while ago. Kind of put that in the air.
I can start us off. I mean, there was Kickstarter. That was kind of the first and biggest crowdfunding platform. Been around 15 years or so. I think Jamar might have had one of the first Kickstarters with John Gallagher and Rich Faber.
Yeah,
it was one of the first ones I was aware of. And
the potato salad, the one that the guy did, wasn't it like the potato salad or something?
It was like a slice of toast with Hasselhoff's face on it or something.
Hasselhoff yawn cat.
Yeah.
but we've seen a whole lot of creators move over to crowdfunding because as Diamond and these other more traditional distribution systems have kind of fallen apart, or at least had major question marks hanging over them for the better part of a couple of years now. A lot of them have gone that way. Also, a lot of them have seen success or other successes on Kickstarter and thought, oh, I can replicate that. And currently, there are some who are seeing a lot of success on Kickstarter. There are people with established audiences. There are people who are creating collectibles. We talked about this before the show. To me, it very much parallels the freemium and whale thing you see with freemium games, where it's content that can be really inexpensive, but there's collectibles created for the people with deep pockets, the metal covers, the variant covers. And you see Kickstarters, it's one comic book, but it's got 13 covers. And then it's, $500 or $1,000 to get all 13 and the rare signed sketched one or whatever. And almost all of those are print on demand. It's very interesting that that method has worked. And then a lot of the old rules still apply. Sex sells. You have to deliver on your genre. If you have a horror comic, if it's not scary, you have failed. If you make a humor comic and it's not funny, you have failed.
Mm-hmm.
So those people have to have rarely is that the person's first Kickstarter, the one that's making all that money. They have to have established a bit of an audience, maybe a bit of a track record, and then keep delivering on those promises. But now there's Crowdfunder, no E in Crowdfunder. There is Zoop. There is BackerKit, and BackerKit, I'm partial to be. I think I'm moving my crowdfunding over to BackerKit in the coming year. They don't allow AI on their platform, and that's a big deal for me. And I like the other tools they have, like Launch and Pledge Manager, things like that. But there also have been some crowdfunding campaigns that have kind of fallen flat because all the same issues apply, where you have to have an established audience and you have to bring them over to a platform and hope they'll create an account for that platform and understand the platform.
That's a big gold star next to what you just said right there. Do they understand the platform they're on?
Yeah. Oh, and they get to that section of the thing where it says, this is not a guaranteed product that you're shelling out $70 for or whatever it is. This is on you. Click here. It feels a little risky.
Kickstarter is not a store.
Yeah. And then all the people who have supported crowdfunders and have been disappointed. And so you have people who would have been enthusiastic, who might have been on board immediately, but now we're kind of like a little more hesitant. Yeah. And then all the other economic uncertainty that's hanging over the world right now.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Okay, you're going to charge my credit card in 6 weeks. I hope I have a job then. They have to hit
$75 in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think also when the same tricks to keep pumping the air into the corpse of the direct market becomes the merchandising tricks of the next market, that also tells you the next market has also got issues, right? Because if half your money you make on your Kickstarter is foil covers, I still think that that's problematic. It may get you funded, but it always reminds me of the people who were buying shit on the QVC. Right?
Hey, what's wrong
what
with
percentage of people are going to buy that fucking foil cover and go, there's that section, small sliver of people that are completists like that, which is not the bulk of people who buy stuff. So there's all that add stuff, foil covers, there's all these gimmicks. And I think if your product was really good and successful, and then you add that, but if in order to just even get to launch, you have to add all that other stuff, I still think that that's a fundamental problem, because you're not saying my guy in purple stories of my guy in purple pants is what's selling it. You got but then the purple pants over here and all of this little thing, and it's also very expensive for you as a creator.
Oh yeah, to add
to manage all that.
Yeah, I think that's a trapping of Kickstarter and crowdfunding, is that a lot of people, when they do their first Kickstarter, they haven't done a Kickstarter yet, so they're just grabbing information from probably the things that were really successful. Oh, Order the Stick, they made $1 kajillion and they're just stick figures. Oh, but they had a sticker and a bookmark and a blah 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 blah. And I think there's an idea that you have to have these stretch goals of like ephemera or tchotchkes to make people interested, or to keep them interested after they pledge on day one. You know what I mean? And I think probably, like Steve was saying, after you've been in the mix a couple of times, you go, oh, you know what? I almost lost my shirt trying to make T-shirts.
Right. Or you ate up your profits.
Right. You kind of learn on the way to the Coliseum, so to speak.
Right.
So you don't do that next time. You know what I'm saying? But it's a very much of a trial and error thing. But before we lose sight of this, I also wanted to kind of bring this back around to, we said it a million times, and because we're on this part of the show, that, you know, people say, well, how do I get my stuff out into the world? We easily say, well, what about do a Kickstarter? And I've always been one of the voices here to go like, yeah, you should probably pump the brakes on that because it's not really that simple. I think in the case of what we're going to talk about maybe is that an anthology kind of came and went in this space, and everybody is scratching their heads as to why it didn't hit, and that's very that's on top of my mind. And I thought maybe we could bounce that around a little bit and maybe see, is there a better way? Is there another way to kind of make things work? If the thing that everybody's telling you is supposed to work doesn't. Does that make sense? Am I talking myself in a circle?
Well, I think it can work. I still think anthologies, if you're talking about crowdfunding anthologies, we saw a ton of success with that. Iron Circus had a ton of success with their anthologies. And I really like their model of the more stretch goals, the more money the campaign made, the more they would share some of that revenue per page with each one of the contributors. I thought that was brilliant. But I think it can work. But again, it requires usually it leans on the contributors to all appeal to their existing mailing lists, networks. If it's social media networks, you kind of have to hope that all the contributors have functioning social media networks. And I don't know how many of us have that anymore.
Very true. Very true.
You post something to it, and if it's a link off of Facebook, Facebook's not going to share that with as many people as it used to.
And in fact, what's really interesting? The last couple of weeks, when I post something that has an off-site link, my post doesn't automatically goes up. It's like churn, 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 churn. Then it goes. So it's doing something, right? There's something, some algorithm, something that's on there that they're doing something. Yeah, and you can't. Well, if you have a professional page, you can track, whatever information they're giving you, whether it's true information or not. But yeah, I mean, I was part of a anthology, the Monster Forge thing, that they had to change their goals. They originally had a much higher goal, and they had to lower their goal. Now, is it because, and they had a lot of top people working on the book. I'm not just saying, myself, but a lot of good people. But is it too much of a fringe thing? You could say, is it too much of a fringe because it's sort of a take on 70s monster comics? So again, that's an audience. Is it too small of an audience? Is that month on Zoop? Did you pick the wrong month to launch? Is Mars in retrograde? There's all these other random things, but I also think there's the other part that now, 5 years ago, there was less traffic on Kickstarter. Now it's where everybody's going because you can't fund your book any other way, really. You're using some kind of crowdfunding thing because you can't go through Diamond. You can't get your book in stores. You have this idea, nobody wants to pay you, $1,500 a month on your Patreon. How are you going to get your product out? Right? Are you doing it for free and you're just putting it up and then hoping you collect it later? So there's a lot of people that are doing stuff on Kickstarter, and who knows, because none of us know, just like with the Baker and Taylor thing. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on with these companies and how they're running their algorithm and what they're doing and how they're constantly tweaking their algorithm. So like last year, it suddenly became, it used to be hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Now, fuck your hashtag. You put 5 hashtags on it, fuck you. We're going to bury you now because you got more than 3 hashtags, right? So like every year, what's going to come up in 2027? Oh, now you need 14 hashtags, but you also need another little thing after it, or So you might have to shelve an idea temporarily that you could revisit it later, or you may just go, this is one idea. If you're a creator who has only one idea, you're kind of fucked if that idea doesn't kick off right away.
It's not wrong.
You know what I mean? I mean, I know there's people out there that are like sort of known for one thing. But if that one thing doesn't hit, then what do? Do you keep trying to jam that one thing down people's throats? Do you reformat it? Do you put it on a different platform? And everybody likes the Hollywood. That's the other thing. People like the Hollywood this kind of thing, right? We're like, they always look at the exception to any of these situations and go, that's the rule, and that's going to be me.
Right? Yeah, for every bunch of Duffer Brothers, there are a lot of
kerfuffle brothers.
Yeah, like there's TED Talks of all these successful people, and they're like saying, "Look how I got here, and my path is the path you can take." And you can have just as many people who took the exact same path, and it is not a happy story. Right. I never gave up on my dream, and I'm living in my studio apartment under the railroad, and it is working 3 jobs to keep my dream alive. There is a I think one of the great things about what we do is that largely we can do it ourselves, and that we don't have to necessarily pay a ton of people. We don't have to pay ourselves a page rate. I mean, we want to, but Mike doesn't have to worry about finding an artist for Skull Kids. He doesn't have to, hire a letterer or, he can do it all himself. That's huge. That's a huge advantage as cartoonists.
You may be wondering how I got this Lamborghini. See all these books?
I drew it myself on cardboard.
You see all these books? Do you think they just give anybody books? Yeah. No.
It's funny because I posted, was it last week or week before? I posted a page from Monster Man. Oh, I got a lot of love for that, which feels very gratifying. But the sales on that book were not fantastic, although people would kill for those sales now. But if I brought that book back, I would probably have to do some form of Kickstarter. And again, I'm not really convinced that there would be enough of an audience that it would be able to fly. So again, the only way you really know is you'd have to do it and go like, well, I'm lowering my stretch goals from $10,000 to $500, and are you willing to do that? Because you just want the project out, then it's a vanity project, right? And so again, it's not the same for everybody, because a vanity project for me would be different because I have 2 strips that pay my way. Right. So if I did something that didn't fly, I could survive it, But if you're 20, that would be pretty hard because you'd probably have to have another job.
We've talked about these guys before, the 20 books to 50K crowd. They're self-publishers. They basically try to write a novel a month. It's a lot of fiction. It's very pulp. The stuff is very sci-fi, very pulpy. Usually, it's a very genre-oriented series that each one of these authors attempts to complete. 20 books. You make the first one free, and hopefully, people will buy the rest of the series. And I feel like that does mirror some of the strategy we're talking about, whereas you have to put in a lot of work if you want any business to succeed. And if you think of your comic as a business, it's a lot of work, and you end up having to front load a lot of that, a lot of sweat equity. And so I don't know if it's to say, if your first book that you make or the first Kickstarter you make, if you make that goal lower to make it happen because you're having fun doing it, like you said, Mike, you take a pay cut to do something that was more you and more personal. I feel like that's okay. I feel like that kind of compromise is worth it. I mean, I could get paid more by drawing stuff for other people, but I'm happy to make less doing the thing I feel like I'm on the planet to do.
Well, that's the thing that's up on the screen right now. I also think that this is something that I would recommend everybody do this year, is you keep records of your social media and you keep track of what resonates with people. Now, one of the things I talked about, I think last week or week before, I realized that I have an audience that a young person would not have, because I have, 40-year readers of my material,
right,
that I can trade on, good or bad. Now that, again, that landmass, that whole system is broken off from Antarctica and is day by day melting into the ocean. That means that there are people that read my stuff every day who stop reading it, who retire or die or life changes and they don't buy comic books anymore. And that's with everybody who started in the last century. So the further back, the better the comics were, the larger your audience is. And so the whole thing is nostalgia, and we're trading on that, right? But one of the things I've learned also is that with each one of these platforms, my mix of viewers, likers, is different. And because I like to do different things, like I like to do painting and landscape painting, and I love animation, and I like to do comics, I like to do different styles, I've started paying attention to what my audience reacts to well on each platform. To me, Facebook is still the best platform for me, because it's older people who have money, who read and engage. They're not just doing that, right? Instagram is just that. Now, there are people on Instagram that are younger, who might come across something and go like, "Oh, Samurai Jack was my childhood." If I post a Samurai Jack thing, oh, you know what? I get some of that, but they don't care about landscape painting. They don't care about fine art. They care about the thing they like. Like, I like big titties. I'm going to scroll, and every time there's a big titty, I stop. If it's not a big titty, I don't look at it. Right? The whole thing, the way it's set up, is to not spend a lot of time liking or reading or conversation. Right? Blue Sky doesn't have the assholes. Because it doesn't have the assholes, it doesn't have the amount of the audience. But I think I get a more true diverse reaction to the diverse things I like to do. Right? My Facebook is my oldest, so therefore I've had people that have been following me since 2008 when I went on. So I have a large audience on there. The biggest audience is on Instagram, but I know now on Instagram that, and I had, one of my Star Wars wind downs had 70,000 likes on it last year. Like, random things will get a lot of likes. They won't get that many likes on anything else. So again, what does that tell you? You can't count on anything. One thing I can't assume now, because this one thing got 100,000 likes on it. That means it's 100,000 people are going to give me a dime.
I would only add that you can count on a mailing list. I know it's something I've been saying since Comic Book Diner and 20 years before that.
Mailing list, children.
Mailing list. You want to know how to get your audience, and a mailing list of 20 dedicated readers, fans, is better than social media.
So mailing list versus, I see a lot of people put out newsletter. Like, sign up for my mailing list and get my newsletter. Do you have a Steve Connolly newsletter? It's not
that formal. I post updates from time to time, but I don't do it's Tuesday, here's the latest news from Steve. It could be better to do that, but also initially I had a fear that when I would post, that I was worried that if I send it too many, or if the next one, because every time you send out one, you get some unsubscribes, and I'm like, oh no, my precious number of. But the thing is, if people unsubscribe, that's great. It took me a little while to realize, oh no, that's fine. If they don't want to hear from me, that I shouldn't spam them.
Did you call them each one individually? Like, are you sure you want to unsubscribe?
You can see who unsubscribed, and it can hurt your heart.
Mom, why did Mom unsubscribe?
But having a dedicated group of people who want to hear from you is amazing. And they, yes, it can be tougher to get through spam filters, because if you don't have your email list properly optimized to cut through Yahoo's defenses, because it is a mailing list still.
And they can see constant contact coming. They're like, no, right?
100%. And like these draconian spam filters.
Okay. Now, you just said something there. How much fucking time would it take you to fucking figure that out if you didn't know that?
Which part of it?
What you just talked about, all of it. The spam filter, the whole
lifetime. It takes a lifetime. But the thing is, but all of it gets hard. All of it gets more difficult, because if we can crack it, that means the jerks can crack it. That means the spam companies, the people who are trying to sell more 7-Up, can crack it, and they can spam people much better than we can. And all the swindlers can crack it and send
delicious sugar water swindler.
Yeah, or some sort of foreign prince wants to sell you comics or something like that.
What I'm saying is, that, and that ties into what I was saying. You've been doing it a long time. I've been doing it a long time. You've grown up with this. If you're a young person or a person who goes like, okay, I want to get into this, you might even know that's a problem.
Absolutely. And then the thing is, if the mailing list is small enough and curated enough, and you don't need to have someone tells me they've got a mailing list of 10,000 people, I'm like, okay, those are people who they do things like enter your email address and you get a free PDF. Enter your email address and you're entered in a raffle at the convention. Those are junk email addresses. Those people, sometimes a kid will come up and see the pen on the table in a form and put an email address. And as soon as a kid leaves, I give them a sticker, and then I just mark it, do not put this in my mailing list. Like, it's not worth emailing. So I think having a curated, well-pruned list, and if someone hasn't opened up one of your emails in 6 months, a year, remove them, because that means they received the email, they didn't look at it. There's no point.
You're talking about being a gardener, though, man. You're talking about going out, being a gardener of this thing,
but it's yours. But I
don't like the garden, man. I don't want to fucking garden. You're every day you're breaking out the hoe and going to tending your social media garden. See, that's your personality. You naturally like to do that.
Well, I know I don't trust any of the social media companies, because you don't own your audience there. Not that you should, again, the word owns is problematic. Yeah. I would say you don't have access to your audience. They can cut you off, and they have.
Or you lose it. Like, I know a guy, David Roach, who recently lost his I think his Facebook account, because they wanted him to upgrade or something. Click on your shit's lost.
They nuked him, huh?
Yeah, they nuked him. Yeah,
you can lose the account. The business could become unfavorable for any millions of reasons. There's all these things that can get in the way of you and your audience. But again, if you have the email list, even if you're just emailing each one individually, it'll take you a day, but they'll get the emails. And, if that's how we have to survive, again, it's one of the few things I think you actually can control. And your connection, your actual connection with the reader. But a lot of readers won't give you their email address. You'll get that relay.apple ID, because Apple has that built-in hide your email address. It's a
So what have we established now? We established that for looking forward this year, that you've got to be a gardener of your content and the environment that your content is growing in, or you're trying to grow your content in, right? So you're talking about extra effort on your part beyond just writing and drawing your material.
Yeah.
All right. So again, so that the viewers can maybe set up a to-do list, because I think like every year your to-do list changes, right? Because the environment we're all creating in, like last year, nobody was talking about Netflix buying Warner Brothers, right? And in fact, today I saw a thing that said that Netflix's goal supposedly is to keep movies only in theaters for 17 days before they would go to streaming. Now, I don't know if that's true, but again, that's something that affects entertainment, and we're a subset of entertainment, right? We're comics is married in between literature, and books and publishing, and entertainment. This is entertainment. Right here is entertainment. We're creatives, but we're also part of entertainment by doing this podcast, right? So I guess we're sort of collectively saying is that you have to have a to-do list, and that you constantly need to update your to-do list, and what's on each person's to-do list might be radically different.
Yeah, and I also what you underlined by Baker and Taylor and Diamond and all these other, and X, that the platforms, the systems that are you cannot count on these systems to be there in 6 months. So you can't count on you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You can't put all your hoes in one basket, Mike.
Yeah.
Say. Though you can try.
Yeah. Right. But again, that is a different mind than sitting down and drawing and creating.
Oh yeah. It was surviving. I mean, I guess you could say, if we're saying surviving 2026, surviving can be keeping your head down and just drawing for 12 months. That's not a bad year. But
yeah, but then what do you do with what you drew? How do you get what you drew where you want it to go? Or are you just stacking pages for personal enjoyment and fulfillment?
If that's enough.
Please open the pod bay doors now.
I'm covered in frost.
I'm sorry, Jamar. I can't let you back into the internet.
All right, but hold on. Before we run out of time, we had a couple of questions. Our good buddy Joseph Cahoon says, Action Planet. Mike, who designed the Action Planet logo? Just wondering.
Me. I used to do logo. That's one of the things I did, for years in commercial art. You do logo design. To me, that's also part of the fun of it, is designing your own logo. And I like Steve. I enjoy all the different parts of it. Right. I enjoy the business parts of it, or the creative parts of it, the understanding of it. I mean, some people don't. I have friends who I just want to draw something. I want somebody to take what I drew, and I want them to make the carpet fly. I want them to make the magic happen. I just want to do my thing, right? Mm-hmm. But I think increasingly that creates a big risk, because you don't know if what they're doing is good. They're taking, it's like being in an art gallery. An art gallery takes 50% of my paintings, 50% of the sale of my paintings, right? Now, for that 50%, they got to do advertising and, have a nice looking place, and got the lighting right on the paintings and all the other. Now, they're taking 50%, but, the spider webs in there, and the the bathroom doesn't work and the lighting is bad and the guy's a dick, well, they probably ain't going to sell too many of my paintings. So,
all right, we have one more here from our good buddy Ray, who's gonna. This is a good way to put a cherry on the end of this episode because we're getting out of here, you guys. We got to walk the dog. Studio Sky Tiger says, "All right, guys, what does it all boil down to? What is the goal? To create, to make money, fame? What is it, Steve Conley? What is it? I guess that's a personal question, right? Because it can't be rhetorical, right?
For me, it is probably to create and to make money. I want to, I like living indoors. I've gotten used to it.
Indoor plumbing is dope.
I grew up on government assistance and, a charity, Lions Club donations. That's what we ate every holiday when they would come and bring boxes of the non-perishable canned goods. So I've gotten used to eating warm food of my own choosing and living indoors. So having my art pay matters. Keeping my audience happy matters. I don't think I've never factored fame into it. I don't know if that was a mistake. But I think to create, make my work makes me laugh, and it gives me validation. But money's key.
I think for me it would be to make money, also to create. But I gotta say, not a fame thing, but I'm very keyed into a lot of things that I do. I'm the first person who's done them, and I'm not trying to act like I'm Kirby or something, but you could check my stats. I think there are a lot of people that watch me and hopefully are inspired, and that's a big way that I live my life on the internet, is trying to inspire other people to capture their flag. So maybe to create, make money, and be an inspiration for the next person. That's me. Mike?
Well, I suppose, obviously, you got to make money, because if you're not making money, I got to go out and get a job. And I'm not going to go out at my age now. I'm not going to go out and get a job that's going to pay me what I can make doing this. Right. My thing was that I always felt that if you got your work, if your work was good, then everything else would fall
Take care. Right. Take
right.
care of
Yeah. Because like all the people, all my heroes,
Jamar Nicholas,
who I wanted to grow up and be like, it seems like opportunities came to them because they were good.
Right.
And I never thought of it as like, I want to be as good as, Frazetta or Kirby, because I wanted to have that skill to be able to make that kind of stuff that I wanted. Not that I wanted to be famous.
Right.
I never thought about being famous. I thought about like, well, if you're good, then you can do cool things.
Right.
Right. And that happens all the time. I think that I'm working on a project right now that's basically because of my skill set, and the things that I've worked on are like a calling card. Like the things in animation I've worked on. I worked on a lot of cool shows. That's a calling card. Yeah. That only happened because of the skill set. Right? So like Action Planet didn't make me money. Right. But it allowed me to go into animation. And because I went into animation, I got a whole other career that would have probably never happened if I hadn't done Action Planet. Right. So one thing can lead to another thing, if not in a absolutely direct line. But yeah, I've always felt that you want to make a good living. That was always a goal. And I felt that the simple, easy part of it is you just get good. If you get good, people want to give you a job, and the better you get, the more opportunity. So, like I posted a bunch of stuff today. In the beginning of my career, I did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Did anything I could do. Anything. I was not picky. I wanted to work. I didn't want to go back and work in advertising, and I didn't want to go back in restaurant and be a cook and flip burgers. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make my living as a cartoonist, and so, or as an artist. And everybody I admired when they started out,
More Nicholas.
they did all kinds of different things. You know, they did any kind of job. They said yes.
Right.
And to me, the goal is to say yes. Now you could say, well, maybe. But you know what? If the strips went away and I would be saying yes, maybe to stuff that I wouldn't normally. I don't think you can have an ego in that way. Some people do. They're like, well, this shit is beneath me, and you know, kiss the ring. But I've never been that way. I maybe that's just my personality or whatever. But I've never been that way. So, you know, it's like skipping stones. Like if you skip once, you catch one thing, you can catch another thing. If you're good and you're a nice person, you can probably skip all the way across the lake. You know, maybe you never become a big giant star. But again, I think if that is your goal, you will probably not be satisfied. You will not, if that is your goal, is to be famous, then comics is not the thing you should probably, art is probably not the thing you should go into.
You can always be on Dateline NBC and be famous.
That's right.
It's just in the reverse, right?
Yeah. I you know, and none of the professionals that I admired, that I got to know, or that I got to meet, or like Al that I got to know really, really well, or Ricardo Villagrán, and that was not their goal either. Al just wanted to really draw really cool comics, and he wanted to draw, you know, Flash Gordon, and he wanted to be as good as his hero, Alex Raymond. That was his goal. His goal was not to be famous,
right?
You know, and I think that it can actually ruin you, because I think there's some artists, and I would say in the case of someone like Frazetta, when he became famous, he was never as good as he was before he became famous. He was always good. But those books coming out, those Ballantine books coming out, he was better than he was after that. And I think that can really fuck people up. So I think, you know, there's a lot of artists who reach a peak, and that it might just naturally happen. But I also think that if you're chasing that fame, then it really can really mess with you, because you don't control it. You don't control. You don't, like I said, I put up one drawing on Instagram and it gets 70,000 people to like it. I put up a drawing an hour later and I get 195 people like it. Does that mean that I suck? Does it mean that other drawing is not as good? It could actually be better, right?
Yeah.
It could be more pleasing to me, you know? So I think also that the other thing is, I think everybody's sort of getting exhausted with social media too. I think that we all got into it. It's part of our lives. We sort of need it and use it in order to communicate, because that's the way everybody communicates. But I don't think there's an artist I know who is not also actually fucking tired of social media to a degree at the same time. It's sort of like, ugh, you know, I need it. I like it. I love sharing art every day. I share a ton of stuff every day. It's part of the thing I do to help push back the darkness that is constantly encroaching on our lives. But I do think that it is also less rewarding than it used to be. Because the companies are so just so fucking evil. The amount of slop every week on, especially Facebook, is fucking ridiculous. And what makes me mad is a lot of the groups I'm in with fans are doing more and more and more and more slop every week. And you cannot reason with these people. Some of them like doing it because it pisses you off, but you're never going to convince people who are using slop not to use slop. I think that's the other 2026 thing. I think, and I have many friends who will unfriend people if they use slop, if they use AI, right? So there's already a couple groups I've gotten out of because they're just putting slop in it now. It's like all these things of Superman. They'll go find, do a Hulk punching something or whatever. It's like they're not going to not do that. And as that becomes now standard, that pushes the overall complete acceptance of AI. And that's not good for anybody who draws. It's just not.
All right. Pencils down. I like it. Guys, we did it. We survived 2026. Look at it. I did this just long enough for us to be in 2027 now.
The beginning, if you watch the beginning of Buck Rogers and you look at Samurai Jack, there's that thing where Samurai Jack goes through the concentric circles just like Buck Rogers does.
I'm going to do this all year now. You made this happen.
Just put your Buck Rogers hands.
Yeah. Your Buck Rogers hand. Guys, thank you for joining us on Pencil to Pencil. We have a whole year to get through, but we can't do it without you.
But we'll be here for you every week.
We will.
Just about every week.
Just about. Every Wednesday, 8 p.m. EST. If we can make it, we will be here. We are lining up a cavalcade of stars, a showcase of stars, you guys, just for you. But as you've seen over the weeks, we're just as good sans guest. Look at this. We hold your engagement in your hearts, in our hands. Look at that. So just for some housekeeping on our way out of here, thank you, Super D. Thank you guys for always being insightful guardians of the pages. And read Rosebuds in your local newspaper. Thank you. Shout out R.P. Gil Gerard. He just passed.
Yeah.
I will be back here tomorrow at 9 p.m. EST for Coffee Break with JN. That's right, your favorite program where just me, drinks a cup of coffee and runs my mouth. I know you can't wait. I'll be there tomorrow. Check it out. And once we figure out what we're doing next week, you'll be the first to know. Guys, we're running out of road. You know that Daffy Duck cartoon where there's just like it just turns into white, like because the film stops running?
A blur, yeah.
I think that's where we are. The animator's just drawn us with a big daffodil head, and we're running out of cellulite.
Goodness knows.
Gotta race. So it would behoove us all to go into that cold night with clean Kirby hands. Let's see this Kirby hand. Guys, thank you so much for another year of Pencil to Pencil. Let's make magic and let's move some more.